You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft. You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast, and I have with me another always amazing person, Tammy Cho. And Tammy actually is going to talk to us a little bit about her struggles with her trauma and how those struggles actually have led her to understand deeply the mind, body / spirit connection and has created actually a business for her, right? Her biggest struggle in life has been her confidence, self-love, and acceptance. And she's learned that it's important because high achievers, which she is one, who experience chronic overwhelm, exhaustion, and burnout, think it's only about more rest and prioritizations and systems, but it's not. It really is more of a personal issue. Tammy is the owner of a company called Path to Heart, and we will be talking a little bit more about that. But in the meantime, Tammy, welcome to the Empowering Process podcast.
Hi, Gail. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's going to be so much fun. So when we talk about trauma, I'm going to leave this kind of like open-ended a little bit. I do want to be sure that I share with people that there are different types of traumas that we experience in our life. And my trauma, your trauma, none of it is going to be disconnected because someone else's trauma seems more powerful than yours. Your trauma, which has created resistance in your life, which has created opportunities for you to make bad choices for you, is valid and is something that you have the right to explore and the right to release physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Right, Tammy?
That's right. And it's really obviously been that gift for me because it really taught me how to, all the pain, like honestly taught me how to love deeper and made me realize how much love I could have for people. Because I lived a life in my beginning phases like quite repressed, numbed out. I could even like really actually love my own daughter. And so that was part of definitely my story on how I awakened.
Right. So, so we'll get into the root of the trauma in a moment, and I'll share a story that I've shared before, but it's always valid to share. Um, I would say that the biggest or the last big, because I've had many big breakthroughs, thank goodness, in my life. But the last one was really about facing abandonment, which, if you had asked me, I would say I have no abandonment issues. I don't know what you're talking about. That's how deeply rooted they were, right? And in that process, I thought I was dying of a heart attack, right? I was laying on my sofa thinking, oh, I'm dying from a broken heart, and this is how people die. And, do I call 911 or do I ask the universe to help me face what's going on and not do this anymore? And I decided to look for self-healing, right? And faced the many traumas and that were in my life that created this feeling of abandonment, which creates a feeling of unworthiness, which creates the feeling of lack, and so on and so forth. And in that healing process, I like to say, like, my heart broke open. And to quote Brene Brown, I ended up with an open heart, but a strong back, right? Open heart, strong back. But it's because rather than hate the situations and get angry, I learned to love them, right? So Tammy, what were some of the things that you had to deal with in your younger life that you had to face when you realized that, there's trauma that's holding you back?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, maybe this is why we are in each other's life, because abandonment was really a big one for me. Because my mom had left when I was 20 days old to a physically and emotionally abusive father. And so I definitely started my life really learning to put my needs aside, and probably not even knowing what they really were. I just focused on pleasing everyone around me, and sort of like trying to avoid any abuse attack and just try to keep everyone happy. And so that was definitely a big part of my journey growing up, and what created some of the patterns that obviously didn't work in my life. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, I at the age of 2, because my mom passed when I was 3, so that's, the second
Mm.
abandonment issue in my life. Um, the age of 2, there was a situation that happened in my house, and as an infant or as a child, as a toddler, you own responsibility. You think you're the cause of everything, right? Because you're the center of the universe. And so I thought I caused what was going on, and my mother was upset, and I made a decision then that I was going to be the peacekeeper in the family and be sure that this type of upset doesn't happen anymore.
Mm.
What a heavy load for a 2-year-old, huh?
Yes. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of why the trauma gets trapped for so long, because we really, internalize it. We don't want to make someone else like the only people that could will love us and take care of us wrong. Otherwise, what if they leave us? It's that's such a big fear as a little 2-year old or whatever year old that is, right? And so, yeah, like within myself, I could only make myself wrong. And even now, like I catch myself like, oh, I'm wrong, I did that wrong, and I realize that no, that's not the wording I choose to use anymore. That's not the belief I use. And so yeah, it's just interesting how, the how upbringing and how it's sort of something in the past could definitely change our whole experience on life if we allow it, and whether we're conscious or unconscious of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so our life is scripted, and it's scripted based on our past experiences, our belief systems, and on how we respond to the world. And we respond to the world based on what we think someone else is thinking, right? So, okay, they're getting upset because I did this wrong, so I need to adjust this so that they don't get upset, right? Or, I'm going to be the perfect blah 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 because this is what they expect from me, right? And so we
Mm.
respond, we become this caricature that has nothing to do with our heart and our soul and our being.
Yeah, and it's true, right? And then we wake up one day and wonder who we are. Some of us, and some of us call it the midlife crisis or whatever that is, right? It's like it's really a journey of coming back to the true essence of who we are, and to really remember that we're this pure happiness and joy and beauty. And so yeah, so I'm really grateful to be here to spread our message and just keep this love flowing, you know what I mean?
I do. I do. And I love the word flow. That's my word, I guess, this year is
Mm.
flow. I've got a training that I do and a keynote that I do about the flow formula and the items or the things you need in your life to be in flow and to live
Mm.
that way. And what does that mean? So I'm not going to say what it means. So Tammy, tell me about the breaking point. What happened that you went, okay, this has been going on way too long. Um, I've been making the wrong decisions. I don't have healthy relationships. There's more to life. What happened that snapped you into, I need to do something about this? And then what did you do?
Well, the way my trauma worked was that I had a lot of awareness on what was going wrong, but I still kept on doing the things. And so, like, one of the stories I tell is around essentially having worked about 20 years as a nurse, and I started having chest pain and heart palpitations radiating up my jaw, down my arm. And I was essentially wheeled off to emergency in front of all my coworkers. And Gail, leading up to that point, I knew I was struggling, right? I even, I was struggling to concentrate. I knew that I was struggling with really high anxiety, and I had on a bed of generalized anxiety disorder that was always there already. And it was getting bad. I even got a doctor's note to take time off work, but I couldn't get myself to let go, and it really, it wasn't something that I'm going to change my life in this particular instant. It was like, universe is like, you're going, you're going to just take time off. And this is the sort of the mini awakening I had. So for myself, the way my trauma worked was that even though I knew a lot of things and I was aware, I got used to repressing my needs and putting other people. So that played out in that instant. And it really didn't actually fully, come from my internal power of making a difference in my life. Um, until like my daughter was like 6 months old, lying there on one of the baby Einstein mats. And for the first time at 6 months, she intentionally hit one of the toys. And I had a community nurse that was visiting me, and she was sitting to me on the right in my living room. And she said, "Tammy, did you see that?" And I saw it, but I was so engulfed in everything I had to do to keep this young being alive, that I was so disconnected. I was like, yeah, kids do that, and I couldn't feel anything. And even in that moment, right, if it wasn't for that angel in my life, you know, that nurse that like highlighted, this is why I've been following you for 6 months. Usually we just do one or two visits. It's, I noticed you weren't bonding with your child. And then, yeah, like I honestly needed someone to really awaken me. And when she told me that, I realized in that instant I was like turning into my mom, who didn't, like, I'm not physically abandoning my child, but I was emotionally abandoning her. And when I speak about the story, I still feel emotional because I'm like, oh my goodness, like I just couldn't believe how far I've come. Like I honor where I've come, and I still feel like sad about that, you know? And so, yeah. And then from like that day forward, obviously I started doing the counseling, the therapy. I started diving into the personal development world, really trying to figure things out and heal, how it goes. And working at a mind level, became that NLP practitioner, trying to figure things out. And the answer wasn't there, Gail. And I kept on going. I started going to energy healing because I realized intuitive healers, they could feel me, even though I couldn't trust myself to even speak up for myself. I couldn't trust them to let them in. And because they could feel me because they're empathic. And I realized I was empathic now that I've allowed myself to feel. But at that time, like that's why I ventured into the energy world, and I, became a Reiki practitioner and all these about energy and shamanism, and I was like exchanging energy healings like one or two times, three times a week sometimes. And when I was honest with myself, and when I stopped doing the energy healing, like all the internal feelings still came back up. I knew I wasn't looking deep enough, and I realized I was a truth seeker, and so I kept on looking. And it really wasn't until I dived into like 4 long years of emotional and spiritual healing. And of course, at the same time, just how the universe worked, I became a psychosomatic therapist, which is the study of the body, mind, heart, soul alignment. And so with all that learning to come back to the body, to actually feel and be with myself and actually see myself, and all these things is what actually created the long-term transformation, where I feel like I fully healed from the anxiety. Like I don't have that. I had it 24/7. It was really hard to deal with those symptoms. Like it feels like you just want to die. Yeah. And so, and that is why, like I do what I do, Gail. Like I feel like I wore this mask for so long, and I feel like I do face and body analysis, and I don't do it just to tell people about them. I do it because it's a process that helps them see themselves again, and to remember who they are, to see like the left side of the face, it's their private world, and the right side is their public. and really see themselves for who they are and where there may be misalignments, because like when we just see ourselves and start to peel off the layers and love ourselves deeply and embody that, like our whole life changes in all the relationship arenas, relationship with money, success, like our partner. Like I was pushing love away like crazy. Like, my husband would try to love me and I would just like create arguments. Yeah. And so yeah, that was like a huge part of my journey, and so yeah, this is why I'm passionate about what I do, and I know this is my purpose, Gail.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's really interesting. So your body hangs on to energy. All right. So in hanging on to the energy, it hangs on to the memory of everything. Your body never forgets. Your mind will purposely hide. It doesn't forget, but will hide from you, especially traumas, because your subconscious mind's job is to keep you safe, right? And so I love to use the women who have had babies can relate to this, right? If women remembered the pain of labor from their first child, there would never be a second, right? But your brain helps you forget really how bad it is until, like, I can remember with my second one, I was like, all right, I remember now. Right. And I was like, oh, there's no stopping now. Right. Right.
Yes, I can relate.
Right. And that's your brain's job, is to keep you feeling safe, even if it's not true. Right. And so part of that is, as a child, when we, or even, not a child, trauma can happen at any age, right? When we have an event puts us in jeopardy, our subconscious mind is going to give us ways to get in a safe environment. And so, I'm going to keep balance in this family. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to become invisible, right? And then we'll continue to bury the cause. For some people, for me, I didn't. First of all, I didn't know that my mom tried to abort me. How did I know that? My body knew that. I found out about that, and that's a whole other story. That was abandonment number one, right? And so, what were some of the other issues that I totally forgot about? I had nightmares. My mom died when I was 3. I had nightmares about that until I purposely shut it down. I totally forgot that I had nightmares until I started to do this work, right? To get into the root cause of what's going on, and then go. That's only part of the job, right? Then it's the healing, and then it's the forgiving, and it's the aligning, right? Of who you
Mhm.
are, and not who people think you are, or not who you try to pretend you are, right? But who you are on your own. And I say warts and all, right? Love myself, warts and all, right? So what are your thoughts on that, Tammy?
Oh yeah, that I mean, I agree with everything you say, and it's like that place within us that, yeah, it played its purpose of really protecting us, right? Helping us create safety, and the ego had its time and place, and it's like if we want to do something different, we got to realize and like come back to our power within ourselves and create a new safety, because essentially safety, it's from a place within our mind. It's kind of from the ego that we need to stay safe anyways. Like we innately we're safe. Like we came into this world that with that pure innocence, right? And we're safe, protected, and depending on everyone's viewpoint, we're protected by the universe. We're protected by the earth in many ways. Like if we just allow ourselves to be held and remember who we are, it really is a great unraveling back to who we are, isn't it, Gail?
Oh my God, yes, yes, and I want so many people to share in this. So I've been talking about a couple of things lately. One of them is joy, right? To play, to this is what we're here to play. What is my purpose? Your purpose is to experience and to have fun, right? This is a game, right? And if you can look at this as a game, some of the things that I do with my clients is, all right, so let's like relax a little bit. let's say that the choices you're making is an experiment. You're in a lab. What happens in a lab? Whoops, something goes wrong. And so what happens? The scientist makes some notes, makes some adjustments, and tries again. Hello, life is a lab, right? It's an experiment. And so feel free enough to to experiment with who you are, right, Tammy?
Yeah. I mean, definitely like, reframing your whole life into a venture. There's definitely beauty in that, and it's like, yeah, like, and it's so important as well to sort of be in our body through it, because it's like if we're not in our body, we can't feel that joy. We can't feel the true happiness, right? And I think that a lot of times we hear more about feelings than being in the body and embodiment and things like that, because the body, mind, heart, soul, it's like we can't address one issue and not the other. Like we're one, like literally oneness, And so yeah, like I love that reframing, and it's like we got to be in our body and live our life through this sacred vehicle, So
Oh, I love this, the sacred vehicle, right?
yeah.
So, and I had a woman that I would go to from time to time she was a massage therapist, a hypnotherapist, NLP master. Her and I had a lot in common, and she's actually the only massage therapist that I felt comfortable going to, touching me, right?
Okay.
And I went to her and I said, listen, I know that I don't like being in my body. It's not, I didn't say I don't like my body.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like being in my body because it's exhausting. To move through the third dimension, time and space, is exhausting, right? And so I need to be in my body. She's like, okay. So she was doing some work and she was holding my feet and she said, get back in your body. And I said, I am. And she said, no, all the way in your body. Right. And I felt this like plunk when that happened, right? Of
Mm.
like getting back in. And, I could feel the heaviness. And so I had to um, work on accepting that, I chose to be here. Right. And if I chose to be here, then I have to be here. And that my connection with other than here can be can exist at the same time, and that right. So and I didn't mean, Tammy, to take up your time, but I'm going to, and then I'll give it back to you. So what do I mean? As a third dimension human being, I can be a mother, a sister, a lover, a friend, a worker, a business owner, a communicator. I can go on and on and on about all of these caricatures of who I can be. And we all can buy into that. We can all relate to it. Well, if I can be that, then I can be third dimensional, fourth dimensional, multidimensional. I can be all of that I am also at the same time. Why would that not be true? Right. And so when I accepted that you can be in this body, Gail, and still have the flow, right, without having to reach out of your body to be, spiritual, but be in your body and still be spiritual. Once I own that, right, it became a whole different ballgame. So talk to me a little bit about what it was like for you to enter into that mind-body connection and that healing process.
Sure, I love to, Gail. And I want to just share quickly because I also like I used to go to massage a lot too because it felt comforting to obviously be touched and just feeling like a safe space. And I realized that even though I would go back again and again for sort of pain in my body, so to speak, soreness, tension in my body, soreness, tension actually never went away. And it felt like it became therapeutic in a sense, but in many ways, it wasn't actually serving the deeper healing, is what I noticed in my body, right? And I realized that what it was all about. Obviously, it's the emotions. If we're not sort of like going deeper in the emotions, as you know, Gail, like there's a part of us that is repeating the patterns in our body, and the way we hold our body, in the way we walk, in the way we posture our body, is keeping those things stuck. And it's this flow that we're sort of also talking about, is that it's being in the body to allow ourselves to be with emotions, because the reason we're not in our bodies is that we don't want to feel the difficult repressed emotions. And it's like, we're human, we want to run away from pain and run towards pleasure. And yet, we need to actually neutralize and allow that, just come back to the body to feel and allow the emotional flow, because emotion is energy, emotion. And if it's not in flow, it's stuck emotion, and that manifests into illness and symptoms in our body, right? And so in the process for myself, it was really again and again coming back to allow myself to deeply feel. And as I allowed myself to do that, I became more of who I was, because I learned that I was empath, as I mentioned earlier, is that this is my gift. And the more I feel life, the more I'm able to actually manifest and attract what I want, because my heart energy is open and expanded, right? And it's like I can relate and have loving connections with people, and I can give, and from a place of fullness, because I'm feeling my needs and allowing myself to love myself and give myself what I need. And so it's being in my body allows me to be present to my essence, my own needs, and keeps me away from like chronically burning out and living in my head and taking the lists and really, yes, we can live out of our body and get more done. And yet we strive to be happy and fulfilled and feel meaningful in the work we do. And we can have both. We could be in our body and have both and have it be easy. Because when we're in flow, it's like things flow with more ease and we have that balance. And so, and I know that you're passionate about getting this message out too, Gail. It's so important to have people realize there's a new, like maybe not a new way, maybe a really old way that we just coming back to. And we need to remember, and it starts with knowing and seeing who we are and loving ourselves. And maybe that sounds all cliche to the audience, and it's like there's a better way. I just want you to know that, and to allow the deeper part of your soul to really open to that. And
I wrote down remember today.
nice, yeah.
Right.
Like for me, it's like remembering who I am. That's what sort of clicks for me. And so we gotta find whatever works for us, right? It's like I am connected, loving, and aligned to who I am, and I'm the leader of my life.
You are.
And yeah, so it's really beautiful when we live from this space. So yeah, that's my relationship with this coming back to my body and flowing. And yeah, they're just like any human being, we're gonna have days that we're out of our body, and then we come back that much faster. There's less like judgment, criticism of self for falling off the wagon. It's like, oh, I did that again, right? And there's like just more space for love and just like joy that you're talking about, right? The laughter, the peace, yeah, flowing with life. So
It's so true. And it's interesting because in the last week, I can't tell you how many people I've talked with that are leaders, spiritual leaders, high level business leaders, and I've said things like, well, isn't that ego talking? And they're like, well, you're saying you've got this gift, you've got, this, that, and the other thing to give, but aren't you coming at it from ego versus from love, right? So I'll give an example, and I won't use any names. I have a friend who's in the spiritual world and had created this process for helping people online achieve spirituality, right? Never did launch it. A whole bunch of things came on. And he said to me, are you interested in getting this off the line? I really feel like this needs to be out there. And I said to him, told him a story about a friend of mine who was a scientist and ended up throwing away this. Why is another story, but throwing away his notes. And I said to him, what you were doing was very important. And he said, it's out there in the universe. Someone's going to do it. So I said to this person, I said, your ego is telling you you have to do this. Let me tell you a story about someone I knew who also created this a few years ago, and it is out there. When it is out there, if you don't act on it, it's out there. Someone else will, right? You don't have to be the one. And that was for me, when I let go of ego, when I said, okay, so there's a message that I want to get out there, but I don't have to be the one. It doesn't have to be my message. I can be just a part of the movement. I can be behind the scene. What do I care if what my driving desire is to be part of elevating the world? Does it matter what role I play? If it does, then that's ego. Does that make sense to me? I don't know why we
Yeah,
went there, but
I definitely, I totally follow what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. And I can see both sides of the coin, because I feel like some people have a calling. It's their calling, and it's to live out their soul mission. They must do it. And I also understand what you're saying, because I realized by, even back in the day where I didn't want to heal, want to heal. I kind of wanted to heal, but I was pushing it away. I actually needed to do it for other people. And I realized that helped me to deepen my healing by caring for someone else. And then it transformed into realizing that just by healing myself, I am healing the world. Like literally,
Thank you for listening to the
I don't
Empowering
need to go
Process
out there.
podcast. Be sure
I
to
don't need
visit
to go
Gail
out there
at
if I can just
gailcraft.com
deepen my
to
healing
learn
and
more
then
about how she
changing my
serves
resonance
thought
is
leaders,
affecting people out there.
entrepreneurs, and goal
And
seekers.
so I
And
see
remember,
both sides of
if
the
you
puzzle.
like
And
this
now I'm kind of
broadcast,
like in a
be
space
sure to
where
share and
this is my
subscribe
calling.
so you
I'm going to
don't
get
miss
out
an
there,
episode.
and I'm going to support other people that are on this mission. And we're doing this together. And that's fulfilling my inner need, like my high value of connection, like that love and connection for myself. And so when you speak of that, I definitely, I understand. And I also feel like I've played both pieces of the puzzle, and they both make sense depending on where we're on our journey.
well, and that's the universal law of relativity, right? You have both sides. I know that when I discovered, I got certified as a coach, and it was purely by accident. I didn't go to be a coach because blah blah blah. Um, and in that training process, I had the awakening that this is my calling. And once that happened, it pulls me, right? So anything that I decide to do every day um, is what's being pulled, not what's being pushed, right?
Mm.
Right. It's a completely different approach to how it's upside down, you might say. But I'm telling you, it's time to turn the glass upside down anyway. Right. If
Mhm.
we looked at things from a different perspective, I have another friend that I talked to, and now he's actually preaching this. It's hilarious that when I learned about chakras, what I was taught was you can't get to your heart chakra if your sacral chakra is stuck. So you're telling me the energy starts from my base and moves up. So you're telling me if I'm out of alignment with my sacral chakra that I can't love? Well, that doesn't make sense. And it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, I understood what they were trying to say, but it didn't make sense to me. Then I studied the Kabbalah, and that is about our energy centers starting at the top. And once it starts at the top, everything flows. And there is no stuckedness because it flows from source. It starts with, the Bible says, and then there was light. And that's turning it upside down, and that makes sense to me. That
Mhm.
works, right? If we start from, I am all and powerful, I am part of source, I am connected to all that is and all that ever will be. If I am, then I can create what my heart desires seamlessly, right?
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, like, and there's really no good, bad, or right or wrong. It's like what is serving us in the journey at that time, because it's like, yeah, it's come both sides in different ways for me, and at the end of the day, it's like what I'm sort of feeling right now, and what's coming through is that it's almost like how religion was made man-made, and all these steps on how we need to do these things. Like, really, let's just like surrender that. Just like religion. Let's just do what is serving us right in this moment. And it's right for me right now. It's my truth. And yeah, and later my truth does change depending on where I'm at. So
Exactly, exactly. So, so I was another conversation this week, and I was talking about, getting on the road because I get on the road frequently, and the freedom that I feel. And then I said two things. One is, so what are your plans for next year? I might die from a stroke tomorrow. I don't know. Right? I can tell you what my plans are right now for right now, and that will be real. But uh, in the future, who knows? Who knows?
yeah.
Right? And then freedom is how I feel in the moment. I don't have to be on the road to have that sense of freedom. It's how I choose to feel. It's how I want to be that gives me
Mhm.
that sense, right? And so when you're talking about getting into the mind body connection, right, and releasing those, I I, I want to say it's almost like popping a pimple in your body, right? When you release that pressure, then the healing begins, right? Am I crazy?
No, I mean, I love this pimple analogy. For me, the analogy was like a pressure cooker for me. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Something releasing, popping. It's beautiful. Gotta find some joy in all this, right? And yeah, and so, you know, my laughter has took me off my focus here. Can you just jog my memory on what you were saying?
Well, I was talking about I could find the joy and the freedom in the moment, and that when
Mm,
we let go of the pressure, and I looked at it like letting go of a pimple, then the healing begins.
hmm. Yeah, and the other thing that will say to that, and what I've been noticing, it's like the more we deepen into our power of what you're saying, like choosing, that power of choosing and deciding, it's like I'm noticing the healing can happen more instantaneously. Like, there's like times that I'm like, you know what, this, like, source, God, spirit, like, this is really overwhelming, and I just need you to take this away. And it's like, instead of needing to make it hard and process through all the hard emotions, like, it just like whoosh, let go. And so there's so much beauty in tapping into that, body, mind, heart, and the soul, and like really receiving healing. It doesn't have to look hard. That pimple could release really quickly. And it's like coming back to the innate power of source that we have inside of ourselves, and actually not only knowing that, but letting it in. That receiving piece has been a huge journey for me, because it's not like I didn't have power, it's that I wasn't letting it in. And so that's a big part of why I do what I do. And I'm going to be, I feel called to create a program called Open to Receive. That's what's launching in the new year for myself. It's yeah, it's because it's this place that, as high achievers, we keep on pushing and doing, and it's like, but when you give, if you notice you have challenges receiving a compliment, or whenever you hit a milestone, how long are you actually staying there and being happy, right? It really is your ability to be hold presence for yourself, to actually let it all in. Otherwise, we're pushing our results, or like the income we want, or like the love we want, the success we want. And it really is allowing ourselves to deeply receive and just be who we are.
Right. So there are words, this language that will give you a hint. One of the one of my pet peeves for clients when they come to me, when I hear, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. You're Stop saying you're sorry. Please stop being sorry. Right? Accepting that. So you made a choice, and the choice is maybe not in alignment with my choices, but that's my issue, right? not your issue. You were not intentionally in my way. You were not intentionally blah blah. If you were, then okay, you need to be sorry for being intentionally mean, right? But it's how I received what you sent out. And if what you sent out was with pure intentions, then you have no reason to be sorry, right? Um, that's one. I can't think of any of the others right now, but there are so many languages that we use, words that we use that indicate that we are less than who we are, that we are non-deserving, that disvalue who we are. Um, I used to say when we were in the great lockdown that people were feeling disempowered. They were either feeling disempowered or they were searching inward for their power, right? Because we had time to contemplate. And if you're feeling disempowered, you need help to find your way out of that, right? If you so choose. Finding your way out of that, Tammy, is finding your way into sitting with it and not trying to fix it, if that makes sense. So healing doesn't mean fixing it.
Yeah,
Healing,
I entirely agree. It's really like, because and then when we go about things trying to fix ourselves, we're on that foundation of something's wrong with us. And like I had that pattern of saying sorry all the time. And it's like, and when I was feeling into all of it, it really has to do with that message that there's something wrong with me. It must be my fault, right? We're always told it's our fault. And so yeah, it's a really deep pattern. And it's like it's the same thing with self-care for people, right? It's like to do self-care so that you can keep on going and pushing yourself is very different from doing it because like I want to just honor my body and this is like brings me joy to do it. And I just want to like really honor my body. Like it's like a different energy behind that. Right. And so yeah, it's very true. Like it's like whatever healing you're doing, you're not broken. It's
right?
like you're whole.
Or healing for. I love, like, I need to go on, so I'm going to have another cup of coffee. Right? Your
Mhm.
body wants to sleep, and you're going to push a little bit more. And so sometimes the healing that we think we're doing is so that we can push some more. So it's not real healing. And I do want to get back to one of the things you said, I'm not broken. I love that inner child in us, who we are, by the way, we are that child, right? Is not broken, is not hurt, is not in need. The pain that we're talking about is piled on top. So that child is not heard. That's the only thing, is that child that wants to play and have fun and experience with curiosity and joy what's going on right now, is hiding under a pile of issues. And that we're talking about, I love the word unpacking. We're talking about opening up the suitcase and unpacking it so that you can let the child out to play, right?
Yeah, and the emotional child is definitely like aspect of our being, and it's like it's really learning to like yeah, I guess I would say like mother, like mother this part of us and like to really like tell that part of us it's like you're not broken, like it's like being able to separate our true essence with the part of us that feels broken and to love it
Right.
and make it okay. It's okay to play and come out and play, right? Like it's yeah, and then excuse me, and on my journey is like really sort of learning to be there for my emotional self has really taught me how to love myself and deepen my confidence because I realize it's not that I don't have confidence, is that inner child, is that part of me. And it's like really just allowing these parts to integrate. It's like my emotional self is not the true essence of who I am. She's an aspect of self. And it's like bringing all these parts to integration and and the beauty of this work, it's like if you're listening to this, oh my goodness, it's so much work. It's like it gets easier and more flow as we do it, and it's like, and it gets faster and faster, and it could happen in 30 seconds. And so just don't limit ourselves. We're limitless beings. We're infinite beings. We're like, yeah, infinite power, unlimited source energy. I think we keep on needing to, yeah, well, maybe not needing to, that's not the best word, but just coming back, returning to who we are.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And so we have free will and we have choices. And we have in the past bought into the stories that we were told about our who we should be, what we should feel, what is right, what is wrong, right? These are all stories. And this whole process of empowerment and healing, if you will, is about learning how to write your own story. So look at life like a movie screen. And I use the movie screen a lot with my clients, right? And to make change, to facilitate change, but life is just a play. And I am the writer, I am the director, I'm the lead character, right, of this story that I get to create every morning when I wake up. I get to choose how I respond to every situation that I am faced with, and I can choose to create situations. So I know that I will, on purpose, create chaos. I do it consciously. Why? Chaos means change. And if I am in a situation as a boss, I would change the workflow. I would break us up and then put us into teams. And then I'll break up the teams and put us into streamlines. And then I will mix it up every once in a while. Why? Because the team would be out of flow. The team would be getting too comfortable, right? And when that comfort level gets to a certain, this happens with human beings, when you get lazy, right, and too comfortable, you don't perform at your top. And so I would create chaos to create energy so people would perk up and perform at their top. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that for myself. And all that means is I'll do something that is uncomfortable for me to do. That's it. One little thing that's uncomfortable for me to do. And that wakes me up.
Yeah, it feels like you're sort of like, it's like, what's the word that's coming up for me is like disruptor energy. That's a big part of your essence. And that's not mine. Like mine has a different, more of a peaceful, calm energy, which is what, and it's just different sides of the coin. And we got to do what works for us individually and what, yeah, and this is the important of really coming back to our body to feel and just know what is our truth in every moment and what's going to work for us, because that's what we create from our heart.
Right.
It's just that yeah, it's just things that maybe are in the way sometimes, but we're creating every day of the every minute of the day. And so I'd rather be a bit more conscious on it definitely than unconscious on it, right? And it's
Right.
like, yeah. And so yeah, I always come back to the body because it helps me see. I can look in the mirror and sort of see what's happening to my face and body and become really, because our body doesn't lie. It has all the information here to tell us, like, am I sort of living my purpose? Is there something subconscious in the way? And it's how do I then shift it out of my body and so that I can body it? And so and obviously the body's also a great way to ground yourself. And so it's got a lot of parts that really help me come back to my truth. And yeah, what I invite people into for self. Because I've worked with people that are very, very spiritual, and I can see on their body that there's a bypassing happening because it's showing up in their body. And there's people that have been on the journey a lot of years, and there are things that need to deepen, and it's like it all comes back to what you feel called within your heart to do, because that's what, like, your sole purpose, when we're not working it if we're not sort of stepping into it, totally expressing ourselves in it, that's when our body is starts to manifest the issues,
Right.
right? So it's like, it's really, again and again, coming back to the heart, the healing of the trauma, coming back to who we are, and also our soul purpose. Because ultimately, body, mind, heart, soul, we can't skip the soul piece. And it's like how we're walking tells me if someone's on purpose, and if they're also on purpose, on direction with their purpose. So yeah, and it's like, and what I found is that the deeper we heal in our heart and how open our heart is, then you naturally feel called to want to be more and call forth more. But it's the layers that sort of keep us there, and we could open up our heart and then hit another layer and of our awakening. You know what I mean? It's just a continuous journey, and it's like, that's why it's like really keeping coming back and being really radically honest with myself. And I know that, one of your things is disrupting, so you're creating that change, and if that serves you, that's awesome, right? But it's like really being conscious all the time, like, because some of the people, high achievers I work with, they've been doing this work, and they hit an invisible wall because they're doing what doesn't work anymore. Like,
Right.
we're always growing, so
Right.
yeah, the body's just a great way to measure, see, and come back to. So yeah, I am passionate about that, so I could keep on talking. So
Oh no, I love it. So the body doesn't lie. It's the body doesn't lie. I had a client come to me, and I actually named one of my programs after her, and she came and she lost her mojo. So one of my programs is finding your mojo, right? And she's very successful, businesswoman. She owns her own business, and it's where she wanted it to be. Looks very successful, but she was miserable, and all my tools are not working. I've been meditating, I've been journaling, I've been like, she went off the list of, vision boarding, can't get there. So it's time for a new strategy, right? And so when we talk about the disruptor, I have to allow the calm to take place, right? In order for there to be disruption. So it's disruption, but we don't live in chaos, right? It's disruption so that we can create change.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.